Okay, so what we want to do today is to look at this three-tier supply chain. We want to find out what is the optimal V, W, and P. So let's go to Mathematica and work on that. So what we want to do is to type up all the functions. So dd colon equals to 1 minus P, just like what we have done before. Profit M equals to B minus C multiplied by DD. Profit D, where D is the distributor, equals to W minus V multiplied DD. And then profit R colon equals to P minus W multiplied by DD. So this is exactly what we have earlier on the slide. So we do the shift enter, and remember that we are using the backward induction. So basically we do exactly the same thing as before. We go from the retailer finding the price, P, and then back to distributor setting W, and lastly the manufacturer set V. So first we want to take the derivative of R as a function of P, and then we have this specific value, and then we want to copy this value and find out what is the price that maximize retailer's profit. So we do solve this value colon colon equals to 0 P, and then we have this value. So we want to assign P to this value. So P colon equals to 1 plus W divided by 2, and then shift enter. So that means whenever the retailer see a price W, then it will set a P that corresponds to 1 plus W divided by 2. So then the next question is, what should the distributor do? What is the W that distributor should set? So then we do pretty much the same thing. So we look at the objective function as profit D, where the optimization is with respect to wholesale price W. So distributor set W. So we have shift enter, and then we have this particular value. So this is a little bit messy, so then we can go back here and do the factor. Okay, FACTOR, open square bracket, D open square bracket, profit D, comma W, close square bracket, close bracket. And then we have something like that. And we want to find out what is the optimal W. So therefore we set this equals to 0, okay? We solve this value equals to 0, and remember that the distributor is setting W. So therefore it's W. Shift enter, and then we have this again. And then W colon equals to here. So you may notice that so far what we have done is exactly the same as a two-tier supply chain, except replacing the word C with V right now, so which is exactly correct. And then we shift enter. Now we look at the manufacturer. What the manufacturer should do, what is the optimal wholesale price V. So we want to take the derivative of profit M with respect to V. And then if we do shift enter, we have a long expression. Then just to make it simple, there is a command in Mathematica that simply do the factor. Okay, so we can go back and do the shift enter again, and we have this value. So the manufacturer wants to set a V that maximize, which means the derivative have the slope equals to 0. So we do exactly the same thing here. The slope equal to 0, and we try to set what is the optimal V. And then if we do shift enter, we have this again. So we want to assign V, okay? So V colon equals to 1 plus C divided by 2. So now we have V equals to this. So what is W? Okay, W equals to this, which is quite hard to read. So let's do factor. Okay, factor W. We have 3 plus C divided by 4. And what about the retail price? So factor P. We have 7 plus C divided by 8. Let's look at demand. So under this situation, the demand would be 1 minus P. 1 minus P, then it becomes 1 minus C divided by 8. And let's look at the profit, okay? So the profit of the manufacturer would be something like that. Remember that C has to be between 0 to 1. So therefore, this is basically 1 minus C squared divided by 16. Okay, 1 minus C squared divided by 16. And what about the distributor? So if we do profit D, then we have 1 minus C squared divided by 32. And the last step would be profit out. So the downstream retailer. So the downstream retailer is 1 minus C squared divided by 16. We can also look at the supply chain profit. The supply chain profit, that means we add up everything. Okay, add up the profit of every member of the supply chain. So in this case would be profit M plus profit D plus profit R. So we have 1 minus C squared multiplied by 7 over 64. So we try to summarize what we have learned so far. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. So then we have considered 3 exercises. The first exercise is a single tier supply chain. The second exercise we have considered is a 2-tier supply chain, where the manufacturer sells through a retailer. And then the last one is a 3-tier supply chain. The manufacturer sells to the distributor, sells to the retailer. So let's try to sum up everything. So, there are 3 columns. The first column is single tier, which we had in the first exercise. Second column is the 2-tier, and the last column is a 3-tier supply chain. So what I have done is just to summarize the result. So for a single tier, there's price, there's no W, no V. Okay, that's why they're empty. There's demand, there's profit M, there's no distributor profit, there's no retailer profit. And the total profit, which is the supply chain profit. For 2-tier, we have the retail price, we have the wholesale price, we don't have V, we have the demand, we have profit M, we have profit R, we do not have profit D, and then there's a total profit. Lastly, we have a 3-tier supply chain. We have the price, we have the wholesale price, we have V, we have the demand, we have profit M, profit R, D, profit R, and total profit. So remember that for this class, I want to teach you 3 things. So game theory, supply chain, and how to do research. So we have learned game theory and supply chain. So the last thing that I want to show you is how to do research. So right now, after solving the mathematical model, you have the answer, which I summarize in this PowerPoint. What I want you to do is that by looking at this answer, what kind of managerial implication can you learn from this exercise? Basically, if you are trying to explain this research to your friend, to your parents, okay, remember that they may not know Mathematica, they may not know math model, but they have some common sense. So after doing the research, what would you tell your family about this exercise? Okay, so what I want you to do is to write down 2 or 3 key points and then send that to me about the, what you have learned from this model. So what kind of managerial recommendation you can provide. So let's say your parents is the manufacturer. And then what would you tell your parents? So what kind of finding that you can tell your parents? So this is what I want you to write down and send that to me.